Some of you have been here a while now and might know that I'm a pretty lazy man. But how on earth can you have a healthy diet that's also easy and convenient? Well, if you live in the US, it is your lucky day because I've got the perfect solution for you. Factor offers you the chance to get fresh, ready-made meals delivered directly to your doorstep. They're never frozen, they're full of high quality ingredients and packed with nutritional value too. It even offers meals for those following different lifestyles and diets. So what are you waiting for? Go and click that lovely link at the top of the description now. You'll get plenty of money off your first order with Factor and some off the few after too. You'd be a fool to miss out on an opportunity like that. Well, the vast majority of you have given me a very clear message following the last episode. We have got to do the realistic thing in the head coach, and we've gone and done it. We're leaving Crystal Palace for the England job. We're going to have a proper go at our international team. Now let's go and see if we can make it as realistic as possible and whether we can get success with our home nation. Yes, hello and welcome along to the century of the FM23 Head Coach with me, Daniel. It is part 100 and we are back for our first game in charge of England. It's a competitive game, well, depending on how you look at the Nations League. But today, I just want to get a feel for my new job. I've taken a little bit of a gamble with team selection, but we're going to meet our tactic, we're going to meet some of the new players, and we're going to play our first game in charge. Don't worry, by the way, I'm not going to bore you to death with all of the Nations League games. After this, we'll just play the big two and then crack on with qualifying. But if you're looking forward to seeing how we get on in our first international job of our career and how we're going to make it realistic, then please do put a thumbs up on it. We will keep an eye on Palace as well. I'm going to show you what happened for the rest of the transfer window there. And I'm also going to show you who's replaced me because I know that's going to be interesting. And then we're going to go and play an Austria side. Don't forget, most of Europe is loaded in this save, so it's not going to be an easy ride by any means. And they are 13th in the world rankings with some very good players, most of whom were youngsters at the start of this save. But they have got a quality team, a few good youngsters coming through behind them as well. But it's fair to say the biggest reputations are the experienced ones. So hopefully we'll have the physical advantage. We'll go meet the players and the tactic in a minute. But first, let me take you to our former club, Crystal Palace. Yes, we have left them. Yes, we've resigned from the job. We did it immediately after the last episode's date. So they had the rest of pre-season without us. And let's see how they've started the season. So in a peculiar turn of events, it is a job swap we've had here. Antonio Conte left the England job, as you can see, behind my head in 2034. He has gone straight to Crystal Palace to replace us. And he's not had the best of starts. He did pick up 5 points, including 2 in their trickiest game so far. A draw at Champion City. Chris Lewis scored 2. We'll be hearing a lot more from him in this save. And he also won on the opening day at home to Manchester United. 3 disappointing games in between that though. Albeit, you've got to say on paper, that is a horrific start. They played, 4 of the top 7 and leads the bogey side, which it looks like they still are. Let's have a look though at what they did in a transfer window because we were a bit worried about that when we left. For the most part, I can only say I'm glad I went because they've continued the theme of signing poorer or very experienced players. So they bought Salvatore Esposito, a very familiar name to FM fans, a 33-year-old centre midfielder on massive money. They bought Milton Garito as a backup keeper, who is poor. They bought in Joseph Bat, who is a Ugandan centre-half from Leverkusen. I'm sure he was linked with us before in the past. He's a centre-half who's 5'8" and can't jump. Really strange signing, but he's a decent player elsewhere. Their best signing was definitely Diogo Santos. He is a left-back from Celta Vigo, who probably the best at the club now. He's on big money as well and signed for 12 million on deadline day. And then Tommy Asu, the Arsenal fullback, now 35 years of age. And I know he's been signed for squad depth only, but that is astonishing that they've changed their philosophy so much. I wonder if Dougie Freedman kept his job. Did he? Is he still there? Where are you? Yes, he did. So maybe they were Conte signings because Freedman didn't do much of that for us. In terms of the outs though, it was a very bizarre deadline day because they loaned out loads of first team players. So you were with me up to about Dean Parker. They loaned out Pucarino the day before. They loaned out Valle, the January signing, who was just useless. But then after that, Jimmy Campbell went out on deadline day. Good player, not sure why. They also loaned out Joris Mancont. I don't remember them signing a striker to make that deal too easy. They also loaned out Ruben Aldarve, which maybe you get with the two Italian midfielders coming in, and Luzon, who I presume has been replaced by Santos now, but a very big overhaul of that Crystal Palace team, and not probably what I expected to see. So, in a way, looking at that now, if that had happened with me and Dougie Freedman, I'm pretty glad that we got out. So maybe you guys helped me into the right decision. Regardless of that, though, it will be really interesting to see how they get on in the Champions League. I know they've got a couple of awful games, particularly with the likes of Barcelona and PSG, but otherwise it's not a bad Champions League draw. To get Salzburg, Celtic and Bodo Glimt, you look further down as well, you'd argue Leipzig isn't the worst tie in the world, same for Atalanta and Olympic Lyon. They have got some winnable games in there, so I'm intrigued to see how Palace get on. Fingers crossed they'll do all right, because I wish no bad on them. We've left for the international job, which is fair enough. So hopefully they wish us well, we wish them well, and it is very interesting to see that we have swapped jobs with Conte. And what that means is we have had to pick our first international squad. Now it's a little bit harder this one because England lost to Holland or the Netherlands in the World Cup final just gone, which is what Antonio Conte left after. Now we have drawn them in the Nations League group, and after today's episode, they're the only two games we're going to show from this group stage because they are the most important ones. They're the biggest tests. Austria, we've seen, are going to be tough opposition. Slovakia should be relatively easy. So what we're going to do is try and bring in the next generation. And what I mean by that is all of the over 30s who aren't standout players. So you've got a couple like Saka, for example, who's 4-star ability, who's still one of the best players in the squad. But when we're talking about Ramsdale as backup keeper, when we're talking about Reece James as the second best right back, those sorts of things, Phil Foden's in a similar position, we're going to try and move them on for this international break. With Austria and Slovakia, the two games first, it seemed the right time to try and judge who's going to be in my long-term plans. So with that in mind, we've basically got what I always do when I'm managing at international level, is put my 23 first teamers in the squad, and then put anyone else who's very close but above the under 21 age into this B team, so I know exactly what my pool is. This is basically my national pool without it being an official one. So you can see here, it is mostly over 30s who are left out. The only one who didn't make it into the squad this time was Anthony Duffy. He's not actually played for the international team yet, but the reason he's not been in is because he had an injury in pre-season and he's not yet started a game for Manchester United. The reason he's very close to the team though is that left back seems to be a problem for England, so he is someone who's going to feature in future. He just didn't quite make it this time as a result. But you can see people who were in the last squad, Ramsdale, Reece James, Foden, Elliott, Scarlett, all dropped out. None of them are going to make it. Skip the same. He's picked up an injury anyway. If we have a look at the senior squad, I've gone for largely under 30s. Now, there are a few players that are a bit older who are standouts. So you can see Bellingham at 31, I'd still say he's in his prime. Same for Livramento, and Palmer and Saka are rated too good to drop out. But we have put in a few younger players who are maybe not quite at the level. So for example, Talia, 21-year-old right back and centre half. Usman, who is an attacking player at 23. Those sorts of players who aren't quite of the same level as the ones we've left out, but are very close and have bigger potential. Can we make them the future of England? We've also brought back in Akera Kelleher, who is coming in instead of Duffy, the other left back, because he's match fit and he's playing well for City, the champions. We've also brought in one of our recent former Palace players in Charlie Setford, because he is the next best keeper in the nation who's not over 34. So he's now going to be our third choice for this campaign. But otherwise, you can see it's a very young squad. It's players who in 2 or 3 years should be coming to their peak. And if you look at people like Adrian Smith and a few others coming into their mid-20s, they could be the ones that become superstars. So with that in mind, this is the squad we've got for today. I've not just picked this on attributes or ability either. I am trying to make the England job as realistic in-game as possible, because we've got to address the comment section, which is, yes, it's the realistic move to leave Palace, but what do you do as a manager? Because in FM, international management seems to be somewhat underbaked, particularly when it comes to communication. Let's be honest, you're not talking to players or clubs or managers anywhere near as much as you would be in the real world. You're not doing as many FA duties and all the political stuff, rightly so in FM. But what that does mean is that there's not a huge amount to the international job in FM. So I'm trying to make it as realistic as I can. I want to make sure I'm picking the right squads. So here's what I'm doing at the moment. Every weekend in the Premier League, or whether it's other European games, because if we have a look at some of our players, by the way, don't actually know how I can do it here. We've got a few playing in the Bundesliga, La Liga, etc. I am going to watch at least one game every weekend. I'm going to attend it. I'm going to watch it in full, the 90 minutes, and I'm going to keep an eye on my player the whole way through it. If there's 2 or 3 in, even better. So we've done that a few times this season. It did come back to bite me once because I went to watch a game and United it was, I think, and Ocon wasn't starting. So those things happen. But I have overall been successful with it. And with United, at least, there were 2 or 3 players we could watch. And it means I'm getting a better understanding of the players, particularly those who are on the cusp of the squad. So like when we went to watch United, Jonah Hodgkinson was playing. It was a Europa Conference game. And he's a player that seems to be really good to me. And he seems to play quite well. But he's not rated as well compared to our squad. So he's someone who's on the fringe. And I'm saying, do I have the right to pick him over Phil Foden? Let's go and have a look at him and how he played. And actually, there were a lot of things I liked. So that's the sort of thing we're planning to do. Watch the games in full, get used to the players, see who makes our squad, and try and plan this team for the future. Because it is all geared towards the Euros. If a massive job comes up in the meantime, we might consider it. But for now, my full focus is England. And with that in mind, we've got 6 games to prepare for our qualifiers. Let's go and get to the team selection. Let's go and have a look at our tactic for today. And let's see what 11 I've picked for my first game in charge. Right then, here is the team we've gone for our first game as England manager, and there's a few things I need to point out before we start. First of all, the Nations League isn't that important to me, so if we don't do brilliantly then fine, as long as we beat Slovakia and don't get relegated, I'm happy. The second thing, of these 2 fixtures, we know this one is the hardest. Austria, 30 places above Slovakia in the rankings, much better record in competitions and tournaments. So we're going to play our strongest team in this one. And if anyone's not fit on Tuesday, then fine. We've got a few players in the squad who have got no caps or 1 cap. So Gabiola, the sub-keeper, never played an England game. We'll change that in midweek. Tally, the 21-year-old right-back, 4 caps. We'll try and get him another one off the bench. Devilet, the centre-half, has played 4. But he's not actually match fit at the moment. So we'll try and get him involved too. Much like Adrian Smith, 1 cap at 24. Kelleher, a former fullback from Palace, 26, 1 cap despite being City's league-winning fullback. There's a few players here who are just inexperienced, and a lot of them, even like Hodgkinson, who's got 24, but most of them off the bench. Chris Lewis only played his first one in June, and I think Usman didn't have any. So there we go. All of those will have an extra cap by the end of this spell, whether it's off the bench today or from starting against Slovakia. This, though, I would argue is pretty close to our first 11. The only real debate we've got is this Cole Palmer situation. He's slightly better off the right, and he's also 32. What I'd like to have eventually is Ocon in centre midfield, probably playing as one of the 2 there. Bit weird he can't play number 10. And then maybe Devine further forward, and then Ocon alongside Bellingham. Maybe we'll find a way to fit them all in. But for now, I just want to get the first game out the way, get the win, play on the front foot, and see how we get on. I'm also going to try with Livramento off the left today. But in the long term, I see either Kelleher or Duffy, who we looked at earlier, probably fulfilling that role permanently. The only issue with Duffy is he can't jump, so Kelleher might be the one. What it does mean, though, is we've got a big 11 in today. Basically, all of the players you know already, I'm not going to show you, and all of the regens, I'm going to give you a glimpse at. So in goal is Elijah Smith, who is absolutely world class. 28 at Liverpool, he's a superstar. No doubting about his spot in the team. Livramento at left back, Stansfield at right back. We've played against loads of times with City. He's a model pro, he's top class. Jabari Roberts from Chelsea at centre half is wonderful. Maybe more of a holding midfielder than a centre half, but in this team, we're a bit light of central defenders at the top level, and he's one of them. It also means he's alongside Parsons, who from Manchester City is very good again. Doesn't play 100% of the games for City though, which is a bit of a problem. Alfie Devine and Cole Palmer are in the middle alongside Bellingham, who I've got to show you just because he's that good. He's at PSG. I'll watch him once or twice a year, but let's be honest, I know what I'm going to get from him. Saka's still on the left. Cloudesdale on the right is a brilliant player at Liverpool. Proper traditional winger. Loves to get to the byline. Can't wait to watch him. And Tezjo up front. Wonder kid at the start of the game and has become a superstar with Liverpool. So that is the team we're going for. We're going to play on the front foot between positive or attacking, depending on the opposition. We're still going to try and play good football. It was sort of set up as a vertical tiki-taka, but with the extra width of 2 proper wingers. They can both play off the opposite side, with Cole Palmer off the right as well. With also having Solly Arson as an option off the left. I might well switch to have them both as inverted off the opposite. But for now, this is what we're going for. We're playing quick. We're playing a high line. We're playing out from the back. we've got an incredibly mobile back four. I think Stansfield is, no, he's not. It's Livramento is the slowest of the four, and he is 16 for acceleration, 17 for pace. All the rest are still, no, Parsons 16 as well. I think Roberts is even quicker, 16 for both pace and acceleration. So we've got a quick team. We know what we're doing, and this is a quality side. Can we get a tune out of them straight away? Is it going to take a few games? We're at the end of a transfer window where a few of them are a bit downbeat, their morale's off. I feel like we've got the tools to win. Let's see how we get on in our first game in Austria. It's the hardest of our 2 games in this first international break. But let's go and see if my tactic and my team works. Well, here we go then. We know they've got a good side with lots of good experienced attacking players, but it is worth mentioning, whenever you go to an international team and look at those best players, they are based on reputation as well. So a lot of their younger regens who are high quality aren't actually showing on there. They've also on the bench out of interest got Carney, who, if you remember, is the man who went from Villa to Chelsea last summer in real life. He's English born and he's playing for Austria. That's going to be an interesting moment. But I feel they're going to give us a test. Hopefully not a big one. I like to win this by 2 or 3 if we can. Just show that we've got the quality. Keep the media quiet. You know there's always going to be a lot of talk when you're the England manager. And for some reason, although the UEFA club tournaments are sponsored, the UEFA international ones are. So the Nations League is not officially sponsored in-game. The last game England played was a World Cup final defeat to the Netherlands. Still not able to get that big trophy there. We'll have a look at all their history later on down the line. We'll worry about that when the big tournaments come. For now, it's about seeing us in charge for the first time and seeing how we get on against Austria. Let's keep an eye on the groups. The other game, of course, Slovakia v the World Cup champions, the Netherlands. And here is one of the skipper for Austria, playing in defence. I'd imagine they'll play pretty good football as well. They've got an experienced team of good players, and we've gifted them a chance here with Yusuf Demir. Elijah Smith makes the save, but not the best from Parsons. With a high line, we cannot afford mistakes like this. We're away from home, maybe going attacking was too aggressive. If we need to a bit later, we'll drop to positive. But we want to get on the front foot. We want to show how good we are. And it looks like we're coming into this game now. Just saw that Guy Vaknin has scored for Israel. That man never disappoints, does he? As here come Austria from defence, playing out from the back to Wanner. He gets it wide to Wimmer, and it's out to Yusuf Demir. Big switch over the top. It's the chances that are coming for them. All of those from big direct balls. We're trying to play a bit more football here with Smith. Out from the back. It's not a good England shirt on here, is it? Roberts finds Devine. Back to Smith again and out to Parsons. Has space to run into. Goes short to Devine and wide to the left for Saka. He gives it to Palmer and Tezgel. Has Saka running off him. Superstar in real life. Superstar in FM. But can't find the cross there. Demir loses it to Livramento though. Good work to win it back high. That is going to be a big part of our game here. As Bellingham nicks it in midfield. Back to Devine again. Great ball for Saka. 2 in the middle. Won't need them. Goes alone. And it's a big deflection on its way in. We're not going to mind because it gives us our first goal in charge. It was hitting a target, so it will count for Saka. There was an element of fortune there. Great ball through from Alfie Devine. We go 1-0 up in Austria. Well, there is some big news elsewhere in this group because on a stroke of half-time, Slovakia have a 2-0 lead against the Netherlands. Now, Slovakia have got a pretty good young side and a few experienced players too, but they've got players worth like 40, 50 million. I mean, good footballers. One at Lyon there, fullback at Eintracht Frankfurt, centre forward is at Atalanta. They're good players, very good players. But it's not a team I would be expecting to beat the Netherlands, who have just won the World Cup. That World Cup team, again, a lot of experienced players in it. Maybe they just come into the end of a cycle. A bit like you had with Italy in 06 when they won the World Cup. But let's go and get into the second half. 1-0 up. Pretty pleased with how it's going. We've had more of the chances, just not quite that cohesion. If you have a look at this Netherlands team, a lot more age to it. They're just at that stage of bringing through a few younger players, but they don't seem to be ready to do it yet. And I guess when you've got World Cup winning heroes, do you maybe hold on a bit too long? Maybe that's what they're guilty of at the moment, because you go down to their under-21 team, for example, they've got some very good young players. Even at the age of 16, you've got players like that who are going to be world beaters. So we're getting to the second half. We might have caught the Netherlands at a good time for this Nations League group, but we've got to do our job first in Austria. And with an hour gone, we will start to think about changes in a minute. And what I want to do in midweek, I've sort of written down a little game plan of how I'd like to play the teams for the 2 games. So let's go and try and make that happen. We're going to bring Livramento off for Kelleher at left back. He is the best defender out there naturally. I'm going to take Cole Palmer off and make the change I wanted to, but not just yet. We're going to go for Adrian Smith in a number 10 role there. He is a 24-year-old with real potential. Bit of a playmaker, not the best in terms of physical fitness, not the best in terms of jumping reach and all of that side, but he's a very good playmaker and he likes to run in behind. So hopefully we'll get a bit more out of him. And I'm also going to bring on my former hero, Chris Lewis, up front for Tezgel. They are the first 3 changes. Bellingham will have a little bit of a rest too. On comes Henry Ocon. Oh, we only get 3 in the Nations League. That's a spanner in the works. Saka was going to get a rest in midweek anyway, so that's not a problem. But Bellingham might have to have one now as well. Let's just get this game won because it is a tricky fixture. Lewis, our former player, is on. Kelleher, our former player, is on. I promise you, I'm not being biased at all. Well, 10 minutes to go, and I've got to say, and I might live to regret these famous last words, but Austria have not really had a threat. As we come towards the full-time whistle, there has been no danger on our goal since the very early stages. And to be honest with you, this has been a very comfortable, and as comfortable as a 1-0 can be. The problem is, Austria are now on the attack, but Kelleher mops it up well. Into Bellingham in midfield, and now Chris Lewis, out wide to Stansfield. Great to see one of my former club players in the international team. He'll probably have been delighted when I got the job. As Clousdale delivers the cross up towards Lewis, loses out in the air. Chukwuemeka is on there, but Bellingham wins it back straight away. And he finds Alfie Devine, set up the winner as it stands. To Roberts and Parsons. Short again, back to the goalkeeper. Lovely, controlled, calm possession. And playing away to a good team, we've done a very good job. Stansfield carries it down the right. Quality player, the best fullback in the right back area in the world. Into Lewis, who heads over. And that should just about be it. It's been a really comfortable display. It's been a confident performance. And do you know what? It's not been a 2 or 3 goal win I would have liked to have had. But it's been really efficient. And to not have that threat on your goal does show that the tactic is good defensively. And it might take time to work going forward, though. Can we nick the second goal now as Kelleher to Saka? 10 seconds remaining of added on time. Devine plays it through, it's intercepted. It's cleared away to Weather. He gets it down the right. Vimmer out. Parsons wins it. Kelleher mops up. And the full-time whistle goes. 1-0 to England. Very confident display. Now, all we've got to do is make sure we build an attacking base of play. And we'll be right up there. 1-0 to England. A brilliant start. Now, let's go and see when we're going to be back. Well, I am really happy with that performance. It shows some really positive signs for the future. And we did get a couple of the younger ones on at the end. Lewis 23, Smith 24. I like to get Hodgkinson a start in midweek. Kelleher at 26 on as well. And looking at the Netherlands now after winning that World Cup, I feel like we might have them at a good time. So I'm not going to bore you with the Slovakia and Austria games because we're not going to learn much from that. We've beaten Austria away. We should beat them at home. I think we'll beat Slovakia both times. The Netherlands beat England in the World Cup final. So that is what we're going to show next. I'll show the first Netherlands game, do the other 2 off camera, and then the second Netherlands game. That will be the next episode. Then we'll fly through the World Cup qualifiers. I'll probably just show you the 2 biggest teams in the group, and then we'll go straight through to the European Championships. This is going to be a really interesting spell. I'm trying to make it as realistic as possible. I'm trying to watch my players. I'm trying to learn about them. Maybe throw in a wild card who I've seen play, who's done really well every time. A player who's in form in the Premier League, for example. And I'm going to see how it works out. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see. So I'm aware a lot of you don't do international management because of the perception of it. The fact that it's not perceived to be particularly in depth. There's a lot of things missing and there's a lot of things you don't like. So if there's anything you'd like to see off the pitch along the way, or you're interested in seeing how I do certain things, then do let me know down in the comments. I'm more than happy to accommodate them where possible. But for now, the only other 2 games you'll see from this Nations League group are the Netherlands ones. They'll be up in the next episode. If you're looking forward to it, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the decision. I know I've done the realistic thing, but will I live to regret it? Last time I managed England in a head coach, I got sacked. If you want to stay up to date and find out if that happens this time as well, then subscribe and turn that notification bell on. If you're missing club action already, do not worry. It's a great time to catch up with our Build a Nation save. It is the most historic season we've ever had there, and you can find the latest one up in the eye above. Lots of big episodes to come. That save will be back tomorrow before we return here, trying to get World Cup final revenge in a couple of days' time. You can also find links to all the other playlists in the eye above, as well as the Twitch channel, the football podcast, and the blog story too. But thank you very much for watching, for joining along as always, and thank you again for your help in making this decision in this save.